Why do we as a society hate old people so much?
Because they're lame.
No, they are not.
Every championship squad needs a veteran presence, someone with experience, a wise elder, an old guy. Sports media pundits everywhere love to say a player is past his prime when he's entering his 30s, but I found 8 baseballin' gentlemen that beg to differ. I'll be starting with players aged 33 and then moving up until we get to the oldest player. Starting with... Jose Altuve just turned 33 years old, which is crazy. He still has a good 5 years at least, but it also feels like he's been in the league for 3 decades? He started with the Astros when their uniforms looked like this, and they were terrible. Regardless of how you feel about Altuve, you have to admit that this is an impressive season from him that started on a pretty brutal note. An errant fastball in the World Baseball Classic delayed his 2023 season by about 2 months, and hand injuries can be tough to come back from at 100%. Well, Jose Altuve must have decided that 100% wasn't enough, because he came back firing and hasn't looked back. And although he's not a player that's ever needed to be a StatCast darling, high exit velocity, big boy, macho man, strong lad, he did have the highest barrel percentage of his career this season. And there's not any question he was one of the best players in the 2023 postseason. This future Hall of Famer is still going strong. Sonny Gray is an anomaly. He's been around long enough to remember when the A's weren't last in attendance, yet he looks young enough to be one of those TikTok alpha male podcasters that offer the worst advice you've ever heard. You know which ones I'm talking about. With Altuve, you could argue that he didn't really get better in 2023, he was kind of just the same player. But with Sonny Gray, there's really no debate. This was his best season in like a decade. 2023 is the season where Sonny Gray just decided that home runs weren't even real, dude, they're fake. Just like birds. His 5.3% home run per fly ball rate ranks first in baseball among qualified starters, and that's because his pitches are so freaking gross. Like, dude, what? Hitting is impossible. Listen, Cubs fans, I know you've been through a lot because of the way your season ended, so I'm just going to give you the opportunity now. Go ahead and go to this time right here to skip this segment if you want to avoid some pain. Jason Hayward hadn't had a productive season since 2019, acquiring negative .1 F-WAR in that time with some pretty bad offensive numbers. And that's when he was making like all the money. It seemed like Jason Hayward was just going to finish his contract in Chicago and then fizzle out of the league. Until, oh god, the Dodgers signed him.
Crushes this ball, deep center field, what a swing! What a start in a Dodger uniform for this man, Jason Hayward.
Hayward had the highest average launch angle and barrel rate in his career while pulling the ball 47.3% of the time. He hit 15 homers in 98 starts and helped power a very strong Dodger lineup that mega choked in the playoffs against an NL West opponent for the second year in a row. Hayward and the Dodgers will look to make it 3 years in a row next October if he re-signs. Man, I tell you what, it's gotta be pretty good being Freddy Freeman. LA star, tons of cash, a loving family, and he knows a famous podcaster. Oh yeah, he also just had the best season of his career at age 33. So, there's that. Like, how does a future Hall of Famer have their best season this late into their career? He hit 59 doubles. Do you understand just how ridiculous that is? Here's a list of players since 2000 that have hit 59 doubles in a season. Yeah, it's just Freddy Freeman and a pre-Humidor early 2000s Coors Field season. Love you, Todd, just playing a little narrative ball. Those are the only 2 seasons since 2000, since 1990, since 1980, since 1970, all the way back to 1936. Hasn't been done since the frickin' 1930s, and Freeman just casually rattles off a near 60 spot in a pitcher's park in an era where it's just slightly more difficult to make consistent contact. All of this, and he will only finish 3rd in MVP voting. Do not let that distract you from the fact that when it's all said and done, Freddy Freeman is going to go down as one of the best first basemen to ever play the game.
Belt.
You know, I thought Brandon Belt was about to fall off after his injury-plagued 2022, where he posted his lowest WRC+ of his career, but he bounced back for another good but disappointing Blue Jays squad. Unlike most other Toronto batsmen, Belt found success pulling the ball in the air, posting a 43% pull percentage to go along with a 90th percentile barrel rate. He was also extremely efficient at hitting the sweet spot, which is when a batted ball is hit at the ideal launch angle for a line drive or a home run. He's most certainly earned another contract with numbers like this. Just don't look at the BABIP. Carlos Santana has had an interesting career because he's the last of a dying breed. A catcher that couldn't catch, but was allowed to catch for far too long. There's not many of those guys left, but Carlos Santana was in his own league of awful, as he holds claim to the worst qualified season for a catcher ever. He also holds the number 3 and the number 6 spots. Yikes. He was also banged up a lot as a catcher, so one day somebody in the organization asked Santana if he would be willing to try a different position, and he said, Yes, I do! And that's how you get one of the most consistent switch hitters in baseball for about a decade, and not just a bad catcher. What does any of that have to do with this past season? Nothing. I'm just going to put Justin Verlander's 2023 season stats on screen, because that should tell you what you need to know. He's 40. Now, I know we've had pitchers go off in their 40s before, namely an alien named Randy Johnson. Okay, quick tangent. Randy Johnson was a 6'10" lefty throwing 100 who didn't have his first career Cy Young votes until age 29, and then he finished with 5 of them and should have had a 6th in his age 40 season. I just feel like we need to acknowledge that there's never going to be another career arc quite like Randy Johnson's. Okay, back to JV. He didn't get better than he was last year because, but he had to spend half the year with the Mets, so we'll give him a pass. What he did do was pitch very effectively while having to change his style. Verlander has always been able to overpower hitters with his four-seam fastball at the top of the zone, but at age 40 and post-Tommy John surgery at 38, his velocity is down. He's turned his hammered 12-6 curveball into a more prominent pitch in his arsenal, opting to throw it more often early in the count. He did this against the Twins in the ALDS. You can see around the 3rd inning that he started utilizing the curveball as much as his fastball, and he just completely shut them down. It's a perfect example of the art of pitching and how the best are able to make adjustments during the games. Okay, lastly is Joey Votto, and if I'm being honest, I didn't even write anything for this segment. Like, my script is just blank under this part because I'm just going to speak from the heart as a baseball fan. I somehow need Joey Votto to have another season here, okay? He just got his option declined by the Reds, and, you know, I kind of get it. It was $20 million for a 41-year-old. But somehow they've got to bring him back and give him at-bats. Like, I can't have a Joey Votto needs a farewell tour, guys. Okay, I know that he might not want one because he's super humble, but, like, we gotta show up for Mr. Votto. He's the man, and I just can't imagine that he would rehab his shoulder just to play 60 games last year. I feel like he still has some juice left in the tank. Joey Votto's got to be on a team. I think it should be the Reds, but, like, somewhere. He's got to play one more year. Give him one more shot. He hit like 14 homers in 60 games last year. I mean, that's pretty good for a guy coming off of major shoulder surgery at age 40. I mean, come on. Anyways, that's my Joey Votto rant. I love Joey Votto, and I need more Joey Votto. And let's not forget what Mr. Votto did in the 2021 season, because I think that could happen again. But if this is the end for Mr. Votto, what an amazing career it's been.
Votto hammers it, center field, 7